saying that I'm using a child as a training field for an idea, because that's wild. Don't do that.
How will you potentially feel when, if your child ethnically does not look like you?
Okay. Ethnically, you feel some type of way. You got to. Not proudly, but you definitely feel some type of way. Specifically because the long line of like men in my family is just black. There's no mixed race in my family. So I would have the first. Which I think is I definitely feel some type of way.
What if you
about
even wouldn't have a son?
it. Even then. Oh, even
So would you
then.
not? Would you feel a type of way if you didn't have a son?
That's a good question. Nah, I've always imagined my having like I have a daughter first.
Girl dad?
Yeah, 100%.
First? So a girl, like, how about you don't have any sons whatsoever?
I think that my family would be disappointed in me.
Oh my, really?
That's just being real, though.
No,
I don't care. But like, I feel like my family has always instilled
It's
that. Well,
such a random thing. 'Cause it's like, I don't control. Why are you?
yeah,
Like, what are you?
I'm
like,
literally
what are we
throwing the
doing?
dice, and you're expecting me to land on all sixes. I guess.
Yeah.
No, it's silly.
And it's also interesting that they position it maybe as a success in terms of having a
Oh,
son.
oh.
So it's disappointing to not have a son.
No, 100%. Yeah.
Damn.
Like the comments and like stuff that gets thrown out when someone has a son, like, you got it right. What does that mean? What does that mean?
And like, I'm reacting like this.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there are elements and maybe people in my family who feel the same type of way. I just haven't talked to them about it, so I don't necessarily know.
It's I think it's half of the whole thing of like the name carries on because of how we do that sort of like marital
Yeah.
thing. But at the same time, it's also like this is like the father-son relationship, especially for black people, is so like it's so important because it's also quite rare, right? Like in the stereotypes, it's very rare, and so like the love is actually quite strong. So that's my first answer to that. The second one is like ethnically, like like a mixed race child is probably like the higher percentage, and now that we get to choose like the tonal like
Yeah.
skin color or whatever, but like I'm scared of having a mixed race baby because of the in-laws and like what white people will say to my mixed race child. Just
But
because like
mixed race doesn't just mean mixed with white, though.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Of course, but you got to also take the whole thing of like what is the perception of black people to all different races. It's not quite nice.
Very true.
So I mean, if we're using like, let's say white as an example, and it's a mixed race baby, we're like white and black. White people can be racist.
I mean,
Shock horror. But like, that's like something that I will have to deal with. And I feel like just bringing a child into the world and all exposing them to the negative parts of life, that's going to be real difficult, especially if it comes from family. Oh, that's going to be difficult. But what about you?
so no, we're gonna keep going. Then I'll come. No, I'm gonna
Yikes.
answer. I'm not gonna sit here and ask you not answer. So then you would define the parents of your partner, future mother of your children, that being a deal breaker in terms of them being what they can't be racist. Like, what is the line for you?
The line is you can't make comments about the skin color of my child because there you go, mixed race, cool. But like, the line is, I think we're both very aware that like the casual racism is alive.
Yeah.
Especially just in conversations,
Absolutely.
as well as like in customs of people's households. We stopping that with my child. I'm throwing hands for my kid. I won't throw hands for a lot of things. I'll throw hands for my kid that's not even here yet.
I mean,
So like,
I
if
think that's a good line to have.
if you meet your partner's parents and they're like slightly casual racist, the first thing in your head is going to be you. Second thing is going to be like, wow, if I bring a child into this environment and you be casually racist to them, we being racist now.
Will you blame your partner in some aspects?
Yes.
Actually, question for you.
Why is all the yo?
No, but these are just thoughts I'm having in my mind.
Uh-huh.
When you've say met previous partners' parents, have you asked your partner, have you told them I'm black? Because I've
Yeah.
asked, yeah,
Every time.
yeah,
Every
every time.
time.
Have to. Have you yeah.
Before I even meet them,
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
what do they know about me?
Yeah.
And I'm only asking that for one question. Do they know I'm
Do
black?
they know I'm black? Yeah,
And
100%.
we gotta get that out straight away.
Yeah. And
Because
if they don't,
one time it
why?
didn't happen.
Oh.
Yeah, one time it didn't happen.
Oh,
And
no.
they found out that I was a different color.
Like, as you're meeting them?
Yeah.
And how...
They handled it really well, but you know, you can still tell, you're like, this is a surprise to you, isn't it? You thought you was gonna get Connor from law school, huh? I have a commerce degree, my brother. I own the tiempos. Like, you know, like I'm different.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I've definitely asked.
Yeah. When you've asked that question, how is it received? Was it like a, of course? Or was it like a,
there's been a couple times where it's been like, oh yeah, I think so, and it's like,
Oh yeah, no.
if it's because if you don't feel comfortable telling them, I'm not gonna feel comfortable being a part of their wider family.
Yeah, or 100%, because that's the end goal, right? Is to be a part of the wider family.
Have you told your family the previous partners have been different?
Yes.
Okay.
I give my relationship with my mother. I can tell my mother anything. I give her the full rundown.
Full rundown.
She knows your
yeah.
postcode. You know what I'm saying? She knows what
Okay.
street you grew up on.
Okay.
But she needs to know, because I feel like that's how my mother grew up. Of like, we don't just bring people into the family.
So there's a saying that, especially within this context, of if you're not going to be comfortable with, say, having a daughter, then you shouldn't just have a child at all, because you should be accepting. So given that we've talked about how comfortable / uncomfortable, I actually don't think I've said anything, we'd feel having a child that looks different to us ethnically.
Yeah.
Should we be having children at all?
I don't think that should stop us. I don't think that should stop us, because there are things that have happened to me that I've been uncomfortable with before, but once I've gone through it, I've been knowledgeable about it and I've understood it. And I'm not saying that I'm using a child as a training field for an idea, because that's wild. Don't do that. Don't treat your children like a commodity to learn something.
Content.
But yeah, I think that, I mean, that's why I'm kind of interested to hear your answer, though, because with you, I mean, we've already talked about how you kind of bridge that gap between masculinity and other forms of expression. With your child, if you don't have a son.
I actually don't really want to have a son. Not gonna lie. I've envisioned myself as being like a big time girl dad.
Girl dad.
Like 100%.
Powerful, though.
Yeah. Like, you know how last time we talked about, and I know Cameron's gonna have thoughts on that.
I'm already ready.
You know how we talked about last week, names of children?
Yeah.
I've literally already thought of like names that I'm gonna name like the girls that I have in the
Right.
future. But we'll pause there because that is a whole other conversation. And my mind has shifted a lot on that
We're
sense.
coming
Cameron,
back to
one,
it, though.
thoughts?
I feel like the whole girl dad thing is very much romanticized, because often fathers don't actually put in the hard work of looking after a child, and they get to be the fun parent, right?
Okay.
Because when you see
parent.
when you see girl dads, it's like, well, I pretend that she's in the kitchen and she's making me food and we play around with her toys and we do that, but actually actively being a parent of a girl, how comfortable do you feel going and buying her sanitary products? How comfortable do you feel talking to that child about not just emotional stuff, but puberty,
Yeah, of course.
right? About their romantic relationships, about whatever. I feel like a lot of men do just have a really romanticized idea of what it means to be a girl dad, without fully understanding the way that being a girl affects your life. It's in like a lot of really, really harsh ways.
And that's such a good point as well, because I feel like you're right in the terms of us romanticizing girl dads. I feel like we're kind of already looking at, like, you know, the Powerpuff backpacks or like the picking up from school and like the tea party or whatever. But in the actual fact, like, we a girl dad is also like you're the father of a woman. At the end of the day, you are growing a woman, and like you're fathering somebody who will one day become a mother, maybe or maybe not. And with that, Cameron One's right of like the harsh realities of a woman in our system is difficult, to the point of like, even when I talk about, I was asked a question literally last week, and I was like, I can't mentor young women because I can't tell you what the sector is going to be like for you. The barriers that you're going to come up with. Not only have I never heard of, I'm still learning about, never had to overcome. I'm not the best mentor for you. And it's the same thing of like, that whole girl dad thing, there has to be not only so much relationship with the mother in terms of like, okay, there are things that only a woman was going to understand and you're going to be able to think to. For me, and I think maybe for you as well, the idea of maybe having a mixed race child who is a daughter, I want that relationship with black culture to come from me and not the mother. And that's where I'm kind of like if I have a daughter who's mixed race, 100%. Because I know how black culture is like looks at on the internet and how people talk about it and the stereotypes around it. I definitely want to have a hold on like what your introduction to that is.
I don't even know if that was picked up. There was a truck that went past. It, so I think that there are so many more complexities to having a child that isn't that hasn't gone through the experience that you have. So whether we have daughters, whether we have children that are non-binary, like there are going to be so many more complexities that I can't even fathom right now, that as much as maybe having a wonderful group of, say, women around us who might tell us all these things, there are so many complexities, to your point, that, like, we're not even going to be able to consider.
Yeah.
And in terms of how we talked about the difference between us and, say, fatherhood versus, say, yourself and, say, motherhood, like, we are so much further back. And then even when it comes to, say, having a girl, even more so are we further back in that sense. And I think, yeah, honestly, definitely a romanticized vision of being like a girl dad. And thank you for watching that short video. If you want longer ones, head to, because I can't say the website correctly, so.
The website is patreon.com/unpack. That's patreon.com/unpack.
Nice. I like how you put your white voice on. That was nice.
I gotta do it sometimes.
Hey,
you know?
we do.
Code switching.